You know, I wore lipstick to try to look nice because this is a talking video, but I feel like it makes me look a little like a sad jester. Hi, my name is Matey, and this is Matey Does What She Wants, the channel where Matey, it's me, is on a journey to lose weight and
to have a baby.
We at Matey Does What She Wants headquarters have been trying to have a baby for some time now, and in doing so, I have done a lot of research. I've read the articles, I've watched the YouTube, and I've read my fair share of self-help books. Over Christmas, I ended up buying this book, and I guess I just wanted to kind of give you guys the tea / let you know my thoughts on this book. If you're more interested in kind of the tea on what Rachel and Tom, the people who wrote this book, think the secret is to making a baby, I will always have my videos divided up by chapters. I would rather you click ahead than click away, so you can check the description and you can also check the little progress bar. I don't know what you call it, whatever. So Meal She Eats calls itself a book on empowering advice, relatable stories, and 25 plus recipes for you to take control of your PCOS. I'll stop talking like that, but that's my way of letting you guys know this is not just a cookbook. I thought it was. That was my mistake. It's literally right there on the cover that it's not. Only the last third of this is a cookbook. I think I counted out the recipes, and I think there are just a little over 30 recipes, but it's a thick book, and only the last third of it is a cookbook. I'm not going to give you the PBS special on Rachel and Tom's background, but I will say they're not doctors. And even if they were doctors, they're not your doctor. So you don't have to take any of this as the gospel. I know I'm not. And as someone who's also not a doctor, I will say I didn't find any of their advice particularly harmful necessarily. I will say they do endorse the Whole30, and I have a lot of mild feelings about the Whole30. Yeah. The so-called relatable stories were giving me a little Chicken Soup for the Teenage Soul vibes. I feel like that makes me feel very old referencing those, but they're still out there at Goodwill, probably. I don't know why I keep looking out the window. They're still out there. They're right outside my window, Your Honor. They were cheesy. Some were a little weird. Unless I'm misunderstanding what I was reading, and I did read it a few times because it was confusing, there was a story about someone popping someone's hymen with a butcher knife. I don't want to get flagged on YouTube, but that's what it said, I think. I guess they were a nice little break in between each chapter, but yeah, no, Chicken Soup for the Teenage Soul, or whichever soul you are. I will say something else I do actually appreciate about the book is that they had very pretty pictures of the food. A lot of recipe books don't have a ton of really good pictures of the food because if they printed full color pictures of the food, it would cost $50 to buy a recipe book. But because this book was more than that, they were able to put a lot of pictures, and they were really pretty to look at and made them seem more appetizing, as pictures of food tend to do. There were also a lot of pictures of Rachel and Tom, and made me feel a little weird to look at. They're cute, but they're giving me Stepford Wife vibes. Or, if you want something with a little less substance, Don't Worry Darling vibes. If these seem like nitpicks, well, they kinda are. But these were my genuine thoughts when I read the book. So now you might be interested in the actual dietary advice that Rachel and Tom give for those of us with PCOS. Meal She Eats actually divides a woman's cycle into 4 phases, and they recommend foods you can eat during this phase as well as exercises you can do. And I will say, as far as the exercising portion goes, that's probably the part of this book that I buy into the least. I have heard of eating certain foods during your period, and also maybe around the time the egg drops, trying to eat foods that help with progesterone. Zinc is very good, which this book also says. But the exercising part is a little bit weird, and I'm not sure where they came up with that. But again, it's not necessarily harmful. So I'll give you guys a quick rundown of what they say you should be eating and doing in each phase. So phase 1 is the menstrual phase, and I feel like it's only women watching this video, so I don't really have to explain what your menstrual phase is. They recommend eating foods like meat, seafood, and things with lots of iron and zinc. They also recommend doing gentler workouts, yoga, going for walks, or even resting, which I'm here for. Phase 2 is the follicular. I know it comes from the phrase follicle or the word follicle. I don't know how to say it. And that's right after your period ends. And they recommend fermented food and broccoli, and generally a good balance of fats, carbs, and protein, which I feel like you should always be eating a good balance of fats, carbs, and protein, but I digress. They also up the cardio in this phase, saying you should do kickboxing, heat, which is my nightmare. I hate heat. I don't know why I always want to say it like that, but I hate it. Oh no. But either way, they recommend you up the cardio in this phase. The third phase is the ovulatory phase, which is when the egg is released, and they recommend foods like fruit and aphrodisiacs. I don't think aphrodisiacs are real, but regardless. And phase 4 is the luteal phase, which is after the egg is released. And they actually recommend that you eat foods that will help with your progesterone, foods with magnesium, zinc, B6, B9. And in this last phase, they recommend strength training, biking, and dancing. It all just seems to complicate something that, to be honest, is already pretty complicated. But at the same time, who am I to argue? They have a baby. But I also wonder if they have a baby because they follow these recommendations, or if because Rachel herself actually seems like a pretty healthy person. Some other advice that this book gave that I actually did like was about journaling your symptoms. I feel like that's something we women hear all the time that we should be doing, but we never actually do it. It is a good call to do that, journaling symptoms such as acne, bloating. That way, if you feel that way, you can look back at previous months and go, well, this time last month, I was also bloated and with acne. Also journaling other symptoms such as discharge, whether it be mucousy if you're trying to have a baby, or, the color of your period. Why do I feel weird talking about this as if it's men watching this video? It's only women here, I'm assuming. For the one man here, hi, how are you? I'm just kidding. There's no man here, except my husband. Hey, baby. They also recommend self-care, which who doesn't, but they also say that you should prioritize getting good sleep. I've heard this multiple places, and I don't know if it's true, and I don't know if it's a chicken and the egg scenario, but apparently a lot of people with PCOS suffer from insomnia and other sleep issues. I definitely have trouble falling asleep at night, but to be fair, I, like most people, I shouldn't say most people, but like a lot of people, have ADHD, diagnosed by a doctor. And so when I lay down, even if I'm tired at night, my thoughts tend to be whatever this motion is. Something that I thought was really helpful is they recommended setting up a nighttime routine. That way it kind of lets your body know, okay, it's time for bed now. And that's actually a really good call. I feel like we do that for children, but not really ourselves. Okay, so now we've reached the diet portion of the video, where they recommend eliminating inflammatory foods and adding in as many anti-inflammatory foods into your diet as possible. The TLDR or TLDW of the video is that soy is bad, gluten is bad, dairy is bad. So if you like this video, like and subscribe, and have a great day. Bye. Okay, I'm just kidding. Mostly. So let's start with what they recommend you can eat. If it's close to Mother Earth, you can eat it. If Mother Earth brought it in on a sprig of lettuce, you can eat it. A sprig of lettuce? What? Pasture raised, grass fed, non-GMO, organic. And while I'm at it, they also recommend using glass cookingware or Tupperware or whatever instead of plastic, because the BPAs. And as a kid who grew up poor, all I hear is, and yeah. I can't help but sort of just roll my eyes when I hear those things. I guess because it's advice that's just thrown out so freely and easily. I will say, I'm obviously reading this book hoping that it'll help me make a baby at some point. And so babies are expensive. So now adult matey is definitely able to do those things. However, I hate reading that personally. This is my own personal tiff, but sometimes I really hate reading that stuff because A, everybody knows that, and B, it kind of makes people who can't do that right now feel bad. Maybe you're not trying for a baby. Maybe you're just trying to manage your PCOS. And so to hear that you have to eat the healthiest of the healthy food is a little bit, elitist. But again, that could be my own personal take on it, and I don't mean to necessarily condemn, which is probably generally good advice. I'm gonna get off my soapbox for now, but I'll be back. I always come back. So one more thing that they recommend you eat is complex carbohydrates, and that makes sense. With PCOS, we have insulin resistance, so eating complex carbohydrates and things that are a little slower to digest is probably a good call. Things like sweet potatoes, leafy greens, fruit, beans, lentils, things like that are a little slower to digest, as opposed to simple carbohydrates, which we should not be eating. White bread, cereal, candy, pastries, hope. All right, look, I'm fat for a reason. I'm very much a convenience eater. I've definitely eaten a bowl of cereal for dinner. I've eaten a sandwich at lunch. All I hear when I hear this advice is you must cook 3 meals a day. And I get that meal prep is a thing, but nobody likes 5-day-old chicken, okay? Okay, I'm gonna calm down. Suffice to say, hearing this stuff though, it hurts my soul a little. So let's get into what they say you shouldn't eat. No soy, no gluten, no dairy. But they don't quite say it that way. I'm just sort of being facetious. Let's start with soy, which is the big culprit. I've heard this multiple places that soy is bad. I don't know what's with the bad press around soy. Meal She Eats says it's inflammatory, and I do know that soy is in everything. I had no idea about this until I did the Whole30 a few years ago, even though I currently hate the Whole30. I had no idea, but soy is in everything. Everything. It's in things it shouldn't be in. Why is there soy in this mayonnaise? I say mayonnaise weird. Nobody make fun of me. But why is it in here? What's going on? Almond milk isn't even safe to have soy lecithin. Soy is in everything, and I've heard all across the board that you should not be eating it. So at some point in the future, I unfortunately have a feeling that I will be cutting soy from my diet. So next up is gluten, and they don't have a ton to say about why gluten is problematic. I think it's just also considered inflammatory for a lot of people. And if I had to guess and connect the dots, a lot of simple carbohydrates have gluten, cereal, bread, things like that. They recommend gluten-free pasta and gluten-free bread, and that's another nitpick I have with this book. On the one hand, they're recommending that you eat the food that Mother Nature has brought to you on a puff of smoke. But on the other hand, just because the pasta is in bread or gluten-free doesn't mean that they're not heavily processed, just like the regular stuff is, and just like other processed foods are. They're just gluten-free. On the other hand, I do appreciate that they're not trying to say you should just eliminate pasta and bread from your life entirely. They do have a workaround, and I can appreciate that. And last but not least, they do say that dairy can be considered hormone disrupting. They don't double down on this. In fact, even they themselves say that further research is needed, but it definitely makes me a little sad. So hearing that is a bit of a bummer. I have considered giving up dairy a few times. That time won't be tomorrow, but it is on my radar. I somewhat appreciate their mindset and how they're, admit that maybe more research is needed. Just because we have PCOS doesn't mean we should all be following the exact same diet or that certain foods will affect us more than others. I think everyone should take advice with a grain of salt. Try it for yourself, see how you feel, and if you feel better, maybe it was good advice, and if you don't, maybe it wasn't the right advice for you. And really, I think that's what this book boils down to. Take what you like, leave what you don't, and ultimately, maybe this book will help with some guidance for what you should do next. So that's all I've got for today. If you like this video, like, comment, subscribe. It really helps out the growth of my channel, and the YouTube wizards love all that stuff. And otherwise, I hope you have a great day. Bye. Bye.